You are gonna learn the 3 foundational principles to lose weight and then keep it off forever. And that's the part where most personal trainers, dietitians, nutritionists, that's where they stop and that's where they fail. They only do this one foundation. All of this going to mess with your head and your life overall. If all you do all day is think about food because you're so hungry or you're so restricted, you're gonna crack eventually. You're gonna start to see improvement. You're gonna start to see progress. You're gonna feel better. You're gonna look better. You're gonna have more energy. Anyway, the 2 rules I give to all my clients trying to lose weight are, if you don't have these 3 foundational weight loss principles I'm gonna show you today, then nothing you try will work. 80% of weight loss attempts fail. And on top of that, most people actually end up putting back on more weight than when they tried losing. This video is for you if you want to feel better, look better, and have lasting results and keep the weight off. What this is not is a quick, easy fix. This is not how to lose 20 pounds in 2 weeks. Those don't work. Those don't exist. The reason why you're watching this video is because you probably tried those and you put the weight back on. There's no magic pill. There is so much conflicting information out there on diet, health, exercise in general, but more so in the weight loss space, you have so many people telling you need to cut out this, you need to stop eating that, you can't touch this, it's gonna kill you, all this different stuff. And any one of these can get you results, especially in the short term. For a long-term approach to weight loss, you need to forget about the diet and look more into these 3 principles. The third one is probably not what you're gonna expect. The first one I'm gonna show you is probably gonna be very obvious, but the last one is probably not gonna be what you expect. I just got done with a workout, by the way, that's why I'm dressed like this. My handwriting is horrific. You can go flame me in the comments for that. I don't care. Foundation number 1 is calorie balance. So step 1, we need to figure out what your BMR is. The way you can figure out this number is either going to a DEXA scan, an in-body machine, or getting something like an Oura ring. Those are the most accurate ways. If you don't have access to that, I'll link in the description below a BMR calculator. Again, it's not super accurate, but at the very least, it'll give you a rough number to work with. All this number means is the amount of calories you burn doing absolutely nothing. So if you just one day woke up, I'm sure some of you do this, and did in bed for 24 hours, that's how many calories your body would burn in order to keep your weight where it is. So step 2, now that you have your BMR, you need to add whatever your daily activity level is. Whether it's you going to work, walking, lifting, running, sport, whatever it is, add these 2 numbers, and now you know how many calories you roughly burn a day. Now if you want to lose weight, whatever number this is, I'm going to use the standard 2000. You subtract anywhere from 200 to 600 calories. So I'm going to do 600, 1400 calories. If you eat 1400 calories, you lose weight. Calorie balance, super simple. Most people get it. Most people understand it. And that's the part where most personal trainers, dietitians, nutritionists, that's where they stop and that's where they fail. They only do this one foundation of calorie balance. Because end of the day, it's number 1 for a reason. You could technically lose weight by eating nothing but Twinkies. There was a doctor who spent 10 weeks eating nothing but Twinkies, a protein shake, a multivitamin, and some greens, and he lost a significant amount of weight. That being said, he wouldn't recommend this diet. And the reason he wouldn't recommend it is the other 2 things. Because here's the thing, foundation number 1 is the reason why all those diets can have you lose weight. But foundation number 2 and 3 is the reason you can keep the weight off. Not only that, but also feel good in your body, have amazing energy, and have a healthier life. Foundation number 2 is metabolic and hormonal health. Now, last thing on foundation number 1, which is gonna segue into foundation number 2, is if you say, my TDEE is 2,000 calories, and I wanna lose weight really fast, which is what most people do, you cut it down to 1,000 calories. Cause less calories, the less fat, right? The problem with this is that your body thinks it's starving now. See, your body is very smart and your body loves energy. So what it does in response to this is, one, it tries to hang on to as much weight as possible. Two, the weight it wants to hang on to and the weight it's gonna produce now, because some people actually gain weight when they do this, is now fat. Because your body doesn't know when the next time it's gonna be well fed is. Not to mention, if you're not getting in certain nutrients, which most people are nutrient deficient, but if you have a massive calorie deficit, you're probably gonna be more deficient in certain things, starting to mess with some of your hormones like testosterone, estrogen, melatonin, etc. Now, a nice thing about focusing on metabolic and hormonal health is that we can actually bring up our BMR. We can do that with certain types of exercises on top of eating foods that help support our hormonal and metabolic health. What foods are metabolically supporting is an entirely different video. I'm not gonna get into that today. Look at this art, man. Look at this art. If you have two people, so if you got two people and one of them has a BMR of 1,000 calories and the other's BMR is of 1,500, this guy can eat an extra 2 slices of pizza without gaining weight versus this guy. As far as exercises to raise your metabolism, you want to do exercises that build muscle mass. More muscle burns more calories passively. More muscle is also gonna be good for your insulin levels for those worried about glucose and carbs and sugars. If you add on more muscle mass, that becomes way less of a factor. Notice I didn't simply say do more cardio or do exercises that burn more calories. This is a hint as to what principle number 3 is. If you burn more calories through your exercise, what your body then does is it makes you more hungry because it feels like you're lower on calories. Now, this one is affected by both food and muscle, but that's your hormonal health. If you suddenly cut back on your calories, you may find yourself with nutritional deficiency, which then leads to your hormones being messed up. Some of the side effects of having disbalanced hormones include depression, anxiety, longer recovery times, and just feeling really, really bad overall. So that then leads us to foundation number 3, which is your psychological health. All of this right here going to mess with your head and your life overall. But let's just say, for the sake of argument, your hormones are fine. You take your multivitamins or whatever you do. If all you do all day is think about food because you're so hungry or you're so restricted, you're gonna crack eventually. Wow, that's even worse than the first time I made it. Oh my God. I'm a coach, not an artist. But you have to admit, that's the best brain illustration you've ever seen in your life. You might be able to stave that off for a week, a month, 6 months, a year. You won't be able to do that for 10 years. You'll probably crack and fall on your diet. This is why we want to make sure that your food, A, tastes good, B, leaves you feeling satisfied and full, and C, doesn't have you feeling restricted, like you're missing out. Lastly, gets in all your nutritional needs. Because if what you do is you switch to a bodybuilder style diet with the blandest chicken I have ever seen in my life, it's like they don't know what seasoning is. I really doubt, unless you're into that, I really doubt you're gonna be able to sustain that over the long term, which again, that's our main goal. Our goal is to keep the weight off, which means you have to enjoy what you're eating. You have to enjoy what you're eating, or else you're just not gonna want to eat it. And speaking of bodybuilders, you see it so much in the bodybuilding community. They're cutting and they're cutting and they're cutting, prepping for months at a time to get to an incredible physique, like an amazing physique. And it requires so much discipline to do that. But what you see is, because of both their psychological and their hormonal health, because they can't maintain that physique for a long period of time, especially not with all those effects, what you see happen is that the moment that competition is over, man, they go and they pig out. And 3 days following competition, a lot of those people you would never think are bodybuilders, because all they've been thinking about for months is food, and that creates a really, really unhealthy relationship with food. Now that I'm watching this back and post, I just realized I have my own experience with this. I was a wrestler for 4 years in high school, and I compete in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. We have to cut weight too. I can tell you firsthand, all my martial arts out there, they know what it feels like to cut weight, to restrict yourself of a lot of foods you may enjoy. And all you're thinking about is like, man, that first meal. That's all. When you're cutting weight, one of the main things you're focused on is like what you're gonna eat immediately after you weigh in. That's the first thing on your mind. In the wrestling and martial arts community, you see disordered eating. It's a dark part of the sport no one really talks about. I feel like never gets talked about, actually. Which is the other aspect of this. Look, there's some foods out there that are extremely unhealthy and detrimental to your health, barely even food, and you definitely want to limit. But it's important that you keep in foods that you enjoy. It's important that you can have your little sweet treat every once in a while for long-term success. That's the goal, long-term success. And if you are vilified of all these foods and you can't have them at all, odds are you won't be able to keep up with it. The only exception to that, I would say, is if you're seeing the foods have a very significant impact on your health, or you have certain health conditions, in which case you may have to cut it out completely. But it's for the greater good, because in that case, that's going to be beneficial to your psychological health. If you're perfectly healthy and have no issues, then we want to make sure that you're having a couple unhealthy meals every once in a while. This is also where having a better metabolism and having more muscle mass are so important, because they let you include the foods you eat while staying on track. And those are the 3 foundations. Okay, cool. How do we, in the simplest, easy way possible, apply this, especially if you're not tracking? So the 2 rules I give my weight loss clients who don't want to track food. I do recommend tracking food. If you want your results as quick as possible, if you want it to be as efficient as possible, I highly, highly, highly recommend you track food. I recommend everybody to track food for at least a little portion of life so they understand more of what they're eating and what their habits usually are. The 2 rules I give to all my clients trying to lose weight are: 1, prioritize protein, and 2, keep it from the earth or from a mother. That's it. I've never thought about how off-putting that kind of is until just now, and I've been saying that for a year plus. That's kind of crazy. Anyway, so why reprioritizing protein? Out of the 3 macronutrients, proteins, fats, and carbs, protein gives us 3 big benefits. 1, it's the most filling out of the 3, meaning you can eat a bunch. As long as you hit your protein requirements for the day, the odds of you snacking and overeating drop massively. It makes this whole process so much easier when you can't go over your calorie deficit because you're full. I had a client back in October literally tell me, I've never been this full in my life, and they were losing weight at the same time. In case you haven't noticed by now, a major part of the 3 foundations is to try to make this as easy as possible. Because if you want to create new habits, you have to make it easy. Willpower can only get you so far. When you follow the framework of high protein I like to use, a lot of the foods that are high in protein are going to be extremely high in the foods that support your metabolism and your hormonal health, meaning you can bang that out super quickly and super easily. Reason number 3 is that protein has what's called a thermogenic effect. You need more energy to burn a calorie of protein. So 100 calories of protein is not equal to 100 calories of fat and carbs. You actually only really end up absorbing 70 calories because of the thermogenic effect of protein. That leads us into how much protein should you be eating daily. Oh, one last reason why you want to keep your protein intake high. If you're in a calorie deficit and you're not hitting your protein requirements, you will start to lose muscle. We don't want you to lose muscle. It keeps your metabolism high, which means you're allowed to eat more. Muscle also makes you look better. If you just lost weight, but you lose muscle too, or you don't have a good base of muscle, you're just gonna end up looking like a sloppier, smaller version of yourself, which I don't think most people want. Most people want to look better when they lose weight, which means keeping as much muscle as possible. Foods that have a mother: chicken, eggs, salmon, beef, turkey, venison. You may notice here that I didn't put pork. In our rule of what a high protein food is, 100 calories needs to be equal to 10 grams of protein. Pork isn't really qualifying to that. A lot of foods that you might also consider to be high protein don't fall into that, like hot dogs, which I think has like 3 grams of protein for 300 calories. Peanut butter definitely doesn't fall into that. It's not impossible to hit your protein intake, but I don't subscribe to the idea plant-based is an easy way to hit your protein intake. It's possible, but you have to be extremely on top of it. And again, the goal with all of this is to make it as easy as possible. Not to mention, all of the foods listed here are super high in supporting vitamins and nutrients, which is gonna help with your metabolism and hormones. And then the earth rule is pretty self-explanatory. Your salads, your fruits like bananas, berries, onions, white rice, sweet potato, these are also full of things like antioxidants and a lot of supporting minerals. Both of those aren't a comprehensive list. Foods that I find cover all the bases. A lot of these foods are, especially potatoes, these foods are super filling. Going back to the same reason why you pick protein. If you're full on any one of these foods, you're less likely to be snacking on eating highly processed, usually nutrient dead foods. If all you're ever eating is things like salad or ultra processed food like potato chips, which are either A, not filling and satisfying, or B, not nutritionally dense, you're gonna be more hungry and you're gonna likely reach for more and more and more of it. Again, our goal is to make this easy and make this not a willpower game. As far as the second rule goes, I also have a mini rule in it, which is 80-20. Don't stress out about trying to be super perfect on those 2 rules. If you follow those 80% of the time, and the 20% of the time that you wanna, have a little sweet treat, you know what I'm saying? It's not gonna affect you. On top of that right now, if your diet looks more like a 40-60, and you make that a 50-50, you're gonna start to see improvement. You're gonna start to see progress. You're gonna feel better. You're gonna look better. You're gonna have more energy. And what happens for a lot of people is they go from this to this, and then they wonder, what happens if I go 60-40? And they keep going. They get encouraged to keep moving versus trying to jump from this to this in one instance, which is what most people are gonna do on New Year's Eve, which is possible if you either have extreme discipline or a really good accountability and support system. On your own, the odds of you doing this jump are very low. Not impossible, but very low. If your goal has a time limit, if you want to get somewhere by a certain amount of time, or it's having massive effects on your health and your relationship, then at that point, you can't afford to do this small transformation. You're gonna want to look for a support system and a structure that lets you do this and sustain it. And that's gonna be some kind of outside help from a really good nutritionist, coach, or trainer. The 3 principles on how to lose weight and how to apply them. Remember, you wanna prioritize your protein, eat foods from a mother or from the earth, and make sure you're doing lifting to build some more muscle mass and increase your metabolism. The whole point of this channel and all the content I'm gonna post on this channel and on my Instagram is I want to give actionable, nuanced information out there as far as health and fitness goes, because there's so much misinformation, a lot of people trying to sell you stuff. There's corruption even in the nutrition space. Even a lot of sources that some people consider trustworthy are putting out information that is putting people's health at risk. So that's the goal of this channel. If you're one of those people who's on a time frame and wants a specific outcome by a specific time, shoot me a message on Instagram, @the_nomad. And send this video over to somebody who's starting a New Year's resolution, somebody who's tried diets before and wants to get out of the hamster wheel of gaining weight and losing weight, gaining weight and losing weight. Have them watch this video, like this video, subscribe, or follow me on Instagram if you want more content like this. Comment below what you want the next topic to be.